Good morning, GIS-1 students. This video will walk through the humanitarian OSM team page and show you how to select one of their projects, one of their hundreds of projects that they are working on currently, and select a task from that project. Typically, a project is broken up into dozens or even sometimes hundreds of different tasks within more or less tiles within that project, the area that they're doing that we are doing our mapping in. When you're a registered mapper, you become part of the team. And so I'm going to show you how to select a task and then do some mapping in that task. There's different kinds of mapping, points, lines, and polygons. Mostly polygons, I think, in many of their mapping activities. And that's mostly what I've done in my mapping with them, are polygons, mainly buildings. And then I want to show you a bit about just capturing a screen grab so that we can extract some information that we can put into a report that or our text that we're going to be turning in for this particular activity. The length of this activity is going to be a little bit longer. You're going to have a little bit longer to work on this. It may, I'm not exactly sure how long it's going to be. I haven't quite finished it yet, but I think I want you to have plenty of time to work on this. There will be some overlap between this activity and some of the other things that we're doing, other activities perhaps, and our final project, which will be starting around the middle of the term. So let's get started on this. So let's see. This is this is the humanitarian OSM team, or HOT team tasking manager. This is the portal or gateway for all of the mapping projects and tasks. As you can see, there are 62 mappers online right now. We're one of those 62. I'm one of those 62. And you can see up here, I am a registered mapper. So, I have access to some controls on my mapping profile, and everything is tracked. And I want you to actually, you can show me this if you like, or you can get a screen grab of this if you like and show me your profile. This is something that is useful, I think, for keeping track of what you're doing and demonstrating, for me, what you're doing. So it's going to be a thing that I'm going to be taking a look at. So let's start mapping. And you can see there's a big red button there. We're going to start mapping. And you can see here there are 788 different mapping projects, and you can select those projects. There's different ways to filter the projects. There actually are over 1,000 projects they're working on right now, but there are 798, I'm sorry, projects that, yes, 98 projects they're mapping right now. And the difficulty level, if you want, you can look just at beginner projects, and that cuts it down a little bit. Now we're down to 714 projects. And so, you can go through those, you can look at them, and you can see there are 51 pages of projects with 14 projects on each page. And so, sometimes we want to use a map to select. And so I'm scrolling into the map that's part of this project selection page. And I have a family member in Kenya who's working and living there. And, so I'm kind of interested in that. And I've worked there some over the last, 15 years or so. But here is a project. You can see they start to resolve as you zoom in, the different projects do. And here's a project that's just north of Nairobi. It's number 7447. That's the project number. And this project is a missing maps project. You see I selected it there. It's a missing maps project in Kenya. And it's at the Dakaini Dam, which is also called the Thika Dam. It's near Thika, north of Nairobi, about 30 or 40 kilometers north of Nairobi. There's a number of things that they're concerned about, that we're concerned about there. This is a dam that's being built with NGO aid, and it has been built, and there's improvements and things going on to it. And we're doing some mapping downstream from the dam because we're concerned, and everyone's concerned about the folks downstream from a dam, their safety and so on. So you have to be prepared for perhaps emergencies with the kinds of things. This dam and a series of dams just below this, both all on the Tana River. The Thika River is a tributary into the Tana River, which is the largest river system in Nairobi, flows into the Indian Ocean, produces 3/4 of the electrical power in Kenya that is available in Kenya. 3/4, 75% of the electrical power is being produced by these hydroelectric plants on the Tana River. So we select that project, and you can see here's the project. And again, you kind of see, you get a bit more information over here, make a decision whether you want to contribute or not. And we're going to contribute to it. And at this point, once we've got this page up where you can see the project, you can see all these different tasks, and each little tile here is a different task. And you can see there's a legend here that explains what these different tasks are. And we're mostly interested in the ones that are available for mapping. There also are these yellow blocks are ones that are partially finished that people have worked on and have done some work on. And I think you'll see that on some of these, you'll see that some of these tasks, even the ones that are available for mapping, may have had some mapping done in them. And you'll see that mapping as you go into it, of the different kinds of mapping. You also get some details here, and you should read about the task and some of the things that you want to do, that they want you to do on this particular task. There kind of are some rules sometimes when you're working on some of these that are specific to a particular location, the particular needs of who we're working for. Who are we working for? We're actually working for the Netherlands Red Cross, the Dutch Red Cross. So that's who has requested this mapping, and that's who we're doing it for a European NGO, Dutch NGO working in Kenya. Okay, so you can see there's a task here that I've been working on. You can see it's locked because I've recently been in here, and it stays locked. Once you go in and you start mapping on a task, it'll lock it so that other mappers can't come in and map at the same time that you're mapping. There is, we have to try to do everything we can to avoid conflict between mappers who are mapping different. You don't want people mapping the exact same thing at the same time. Could be, rather confusing. So I'm going to resume mapping on this. If you are doing this for the first time, you'll select a task like this, and you'll see a start mapping before you start. So I would recommend going into areas that are certainly, and they should be beginner. And notice the imagery that we're using. We are using Maxar premium imagery. It's pretty high quality imagery here. Not bad for space, for space-based images, very high resolution I'm not exactly sure of the pixel size, but it's very, very high resolution. And you'll see that in just a moment. So I'm going to resume mapping, and you'll see it's going to zoom right to the task. And then in the task, I will want to find some place where, where I can do some mapping. So I'm interested this time in mapping buildings. As you know, they want waterways, they want roads and buildings. And you can see there are some roads that have been mapped. And as you zoom in, you'll see there are also some buildings that have been mapped. You can see them begin to resolve themselves. And, there's a bit in here about image interpretation. See, there's a building there. Here's one here. These are rather interesting, the way that they're mapping, the person's mapped. And when someone maps something, leave it alone. Don't touch it. Don't edit it. Just leave it. Just do new mapping. Okay. But when you look at this, you can see one of the first things I notice when I look at this, you can see there are trees, right? These are vertical satellite images. And so these are trees. And it appears that there's a shadow on the south side of these trees. So this area is just south of the equator. So I suspect that it's probably spring or summer in the northern hemisphere. And, the sun appears to go over 20 degrees north of the equator in the summer, in our northern hemisphere summer, and 20 degrees south. And so we're very close to the equator here, about maybe 100 kilometers south of the equator. So the sun goes north of the equator, and so when it is, you get shadows on the south side. Now this is important because when you're identifying buildings that are unmapped, you may want to, that's one of the things that you need. That's a key element of image interpretation that you need to look at to make sure that that you're seeing a building and not a parking lot, or some other, maybe a field might look like a building, a plowed field or a planted field with new crops. So here, look here, let's see if we see any buildings here. I see a couple of buildings here that haven't been mapped. That's a building right there, because you can see there's a shadow on the southern end of it. And I would map this as a building also. So there's two different buildings here, and I'm going to map these using the area tool, and then I'll square them. And before I do that, let me stop on this, and you hit an escape key to erase your work, your last work, if you change your mind. And what I want to do is I want to get a screen grab. So because I'm using a Windows computer, and I have instructions for doing this with an Apple computer as well, with the Mac. But when I'm using a Windows computer, I depress the Alt key and I hit the print screen key, and that's going to copy a screen for me. And then I have a Word document open here, and I'm going to put a new screen grab in here that shows, and these are things that you're going to use. These are things that I'm going to ask for in this activity. So I hit Control V to paste, and there's that screen grab. So I've got all the information, and this is before I did the mapping. Okay, now I'm going to go back to my mapping screen, back where I'm mapping, right? And I'm going to map these two buildings that I was pointing to before. So mapping is, can be quite difficult. And it is typically double click on the fourth one. So there it is. And if you look, when you point to it, you can see a little square that pops up there. I right click that point and go down and square the corners of this feature. Now watch it. Watch this feature as I hit that. See how that got squared perfectly? Isn't that nice? So there's that building. That one's done. I'm going to do another one. Right next to it, you can see there's another building here. I'll get as close as I can at this resolution. 3, and this one's kind of almost square shaped. And there it is. And then again, I pull up, you see the little square appear, right click, and there's a square tool, and it squares it up nice and doesn't overlap my others. So there's these two buildings that I created. I'm going to take each of these. See, I highlight that one, and it's the feature type is area, and I'm going to say this is a building, so I'm adding an attribute to it. Okay, this is the attribute behind the polygon that really tells us something about it, and we can have lots of those back there. We're just going to put one. This is a building, and then here's the other one that I mapped. And you can see it's an area, and it warns you here. See, it says area has no descriptive tags. Select a feature type. It's a building. Okay, so we're done with these. They're done. And I can actually take these now and check this out. I'm going to download these, and you can see it goes in. I'm sorry, I'm going to upload these into the OSM. So these are going to become new features in the OSM that will be immediately available to workers on the ground, people in Dutch Red Cross who are working in this area. And so, this is information for them. That's the I in GIS. And so we're putting some information into this map, into the OSM, which I would argue is probably the best map out there. So I'm going to upload that. You can see it's uploading those changes to OpenStreetMap. And then I am going to, again, get another screen grab here, and we'll see what this looks like with my Alt, print screen. I copy another screen grab. I go back out to my Word document. Give myself a little bit of space, Control V, and there's my next screen grab. And so when you look at it, you can see the difference. There are two new buildings that have been added to the world map. Whoever owns those buildings maybe is happy that they're in the map now. And again, mapping is tedious. It is, I'm not going to lie to you. It is tedious. It requires close attention to detail. But then, when you get to, this is the point where when you get done, if you want to stop, you want to go play a game, or you want to get something to eat or something like that, you can do that right now. You come right back to your project that you're working on. You can just do some more mapping. It's the kind of thing that, it requires these periods of focus, and then you're able to stop, pause, step away from it. And you're in pretty good shape. So, I hope this has been helpful to you. And, there will be more videos like this as we go forward in the term.